Hey YouTube, it's Dr. J, the Midlife Writer, and today I wanted to share with you my top 5 things that I think you need when you are about to travel abroad. Now, this is not just for people that are moving abroad, this is for people who are going to travel for any duration, whether that's 1 week, 1 month, a year, or even longer. So, the first thing that you need when you want to travel abroad is a passport. And I understand that most people already know that, but there's a little caveat to your passport that a lot of people who haven't traveled abroad a lot may not know, and that is that for many countries, it's not just enough to have a current passport, but your passport needs to be valid for 6 months after your scheduled return. So if you are going to be traveling abroad, let's say you're going somewhere and you're going to be coming back June the 15th, your passport needs to be valid up through December 15th of that year in order to make sure that you have 6 months left on your passport from your date of return. So that's something that sometimes people don't realize. So hopefully that will be a help to you. Number 2 thing that I think everyone needs when they're going to be traveling abroad is a credit card. And so it's not just a credit card and a credit card that will work internationally, but a credit card that will not charge you fees for international purchases. So not many people have actually checked with their credit card company to see how much it costs when you are purchasing outside of your own country, but your credit card was designed to work in your country. And unless you have a card that is specifically set up to not charge rates or exorbitant rates when you are traveling overseas, that's something to keep in mind. And you also want to make sure that your credit card company knows that you're going to be traveling overseas, because if not, you may get overseas and your credit card company may think that your credit card number has been compromised or your card has been stolen. So that's why it's important to make sure that your card will work overseas and that you make sure that you are going to be charged no fees or as little fees as possible. So number 3 thing that I think you need when you are going to be traveling overseas, especially if you're going to be traveling to a place, or particularly if you're going to be traveling to a place where they speak a language other than one that you know very well, is a good translation app. Not all apps are created equally for all languages. Some apps are going to work better with some languages than others. And so you want to really figure out what app is going to work the best for you. And I would highly recommend an app that can do multiple things. For instance, an app that not only is going to be able to translate, if you type in a word, if you type in a phrase, it can translate it into that language that you're trying to speak in. It will say it audibly for you, but also one where you can have your camera. So when you hold your camera up to a sign or a product or a poster, it will translate it for you in the language that you need. So a good translation app is going to be a very good thing to have when you are about to travel abroad. Number 4, comfortable shoes. This is particularly for those in the United States. We are a very car-heavy society, and so we tend to drive pretty much everywhere. Not a lot of places in the United States have really good public transportation, whereas a lot of places that people tend to travel to do have at least relatively good transportation, or people tend to walk more. But even if you have good transportation, that doesn't mean that you aren't going to get off on a train stop and still walk a mile or still walk 2 miles. And that'll be one way. And you're going to walk there, you got to walk back. But it's not unheard of for some people to go to, various countries, and they'll report like, okay, they were barely getting 10,000 steps a day in the United States. closer to, 3,000 to 5,000 steps in the US, and then they went abroad, and all of a sudden every day they're getting 25, 30, 40,000 steps a day. That's a very big transition. And so those shoes that may have been comfortable for you in the States may not be comfortable for you if you're overseas. The other thing is that not all roads are created equally, not all sidewalks are created equally, and so you want shoes that are going to do well no matter what sort of terrain you're on. So if you're on paved roads, if you're on cobblestone roads, if you're on gravel roads, like all those sort of things, if you have to walk over grass, you can encounter a lot of different types of terrain. Sometimes you're going to be doing a ton of steps. Sometimes you're going to be walking up pretty steep inclines. So just be aware of the environment that you're going to be going into and pack the appropriate shoes. I'm telling you, it is way more important to be comfortable than it is to be cute. And like if your face is cute, if your clothes are cute, then sometimes you can get away with having a more comfortable shoe, even if it's not the most attractive. And thankfully, there are some amazingly attractive shoes available too. Remember, I'm the midlife rider, so to me, comfortable is cute, and so what I think is attractive might be a little bit different for other people, but comfortable is cute right now in my life. So just wanted to give you that. And finally, my number 5 tip for traveling abroad is having an understanding of the currency for the country or countries that you're going to be visiting, as well as some sort of understanding of the exchange rate with your current currency. So I am a United States citizen, so I understand everything in relation to the dollar. So a lot of times, if you're not quite sure what that exchange rate is, you aren't really sure if you're getting a good deal. Sometimes you'll look at something and it will seem like it's not a good deal, but it's really a good deal because of the currency exchange rate. And sometimes you'll think something is cheaper than it actually is because of the exchange rate with the dollar. I can think about the EU. Sometimes the euro, the EU's euro. And so sometimes the euro, it might be a 1-to-1 with the US dollar. And sometimes the euro is higher than the US dollar. Sometimes the euro is a little bit lower than the US dollar. And so you want to be aware of what's happening with that exchange rate while you are there. I've seen people do videos and talk about, how things cost in a particular country, and then people get excited, but by the time other people get there, that exchange rate has changed, sometimes significantly, and all of a sudden, those prices aren't as attractive as they were when you heard about it the first time. Or sometimes, if you're going to make big purchases, you want to know just how much the exchange rate fluctuates, because if you're going to be someplace a month, the exchange rate might fluctuate a lot. And so you can tell yourself, okay, I am going to make this purchase, here's the exchange rate that I'm looking for to make this purchase. And when it hits this area, I'll make the purchase. If it doesn't hit this area, I won't make the purchase. Different things like that. So just really be aware of how that exchange rate works in relation to your current currency, and then get an understanding of how much that exchange rate fluctuates. A lot of times, exchange rate is going to fluctuate on a day-by-day basis. Sometimes that fluctuation is small, but there are some times when that fluctuation is a little bit bigger. So be aware of what's happening with that currency, with that exchange rate for the time when you are there. And just to recap, my 5 must-dos when you are going to be traveling abroad. Number 1, having a passport and making sure you have enough time on that passport. Some countries say that you need 6 months left on your passport for your date of return in order to come into their country. Having a credit card that will allow for you to use it internationally and doesn't have really high international fees for using that credit card internationally. A translation app that is going to work for the language that you need, and it's going to work in a number of different ways, including the camera, so that you can read posters and billboards and signs, as well as being able to type in words and then have it say what you need in that new language. Comfortable shoes, and an understanding of the currency and the exchange rate. So I hope that helps. This is Dr. J, the Midlife Writer. Bye-bye.